so today we are going to learn about adding and subtracting complex numbers. But first, you really need to know what a complex number is. So now it's complex because it is a combination of a real number and imaginary numbers. So now you know a real number, and I'll put this down here. Real numbers consist of rational numbers and irrational numbers. So rational numbers being like, 4, -7, 3.5, 18/3. These are all rational numbers. Irrational numbers are something like pi, or the square root of 2, because there is no square root of 2. Or, the square root of 7. So these are all irrational numbers, but they're all under real numbers. Now, imaginary numbers, you have pure imaginary. A pure imaginary number means you have I, or you have the square root of -4, or you have, which equals to 2i, right? Or you have I times the square root of 3. So these are all pure imaginary because it's just one monomial, one term that is imaginary. The other type of imaginary number is called a complex, where you're combining one of these and one of these. So complex number. So let's talk about it. It's in the form of A plus BI, where A is your real number and BI is all your imaginary numbers, or the B part. So anything that's a real number should go in front, and anything that's an imaginary number should be part of the B. So it doesn't always have to be plus. It could be plus or minus really here. But, it's just the general form of a complex number. So it looks something like this. 3 plus 4i, that is a complex number. And this is a complex number because it combines a real number and an imaginary number. So I'm trying to add these two together. So I will always add a real number with a real number and an imaginary with an imaginary. So 3 plus 2 is 5, and 4 i's plus 5 i's gives us 9 i's. Same thing here. I have 4 plus 1 is 5, and a positive 6i and a negative 3i gives me a positive 3i. And then here, before I can combine, I want to see if I can simplify this, which I can. It becomes 7 plus 2i plus 5 plus 3i. So again, the real numbers, 7 plus 5 is 12. And then I have a positive 2i and a positive 3i, which gives me positive 5i. So notice I cannot combine imaginary numbers and real numbers. My answer, these are called complex numbers because it's real and imaginary together. All right, so let's keep going here. I have a positive 12 plus a negative 12, which is 0. I don't really need to write that. These cancel out. And then I have a negative 8i and a positive 8i, which also, these cancel out. So if you notice, these are actually inverses because the answer is 0 here. When they all cancel out and there's nothing to add, the answer is 0. So these two are inverses of each other. Notice I have a positive 12 and a negative 8i, and a negative 12 and a positive 8i. So they're inverses of each other. And then here I have a 4. Now here's the thing. I have a minus sign, so I don't want to mess this up. So I'm going to do keep, change, change. So I have to change everything in here, okay? So it's 4 plus 3i plus -1 minus 2i. So it's almost like we distributed this negative here onto both terms. Very important that when it's a subtraction that you do that, because a 4 and a -1 gives me 3, and a 3 and a -2 gives me 1i. So you could write 1i, or you could just write 3 plus I. So either one of these is a correct answer there. And then in this last example, keep, change, change. So 5 minus 4i plus -6 plus 2i. So notice how I did keep, change, change. This gives me a -1, and here I get minus 2i. So there you have it. There are some 6 examples that I did with you. And here are 6 practice problems I would like you to try on your own. So if you'd like to pause the video here so that you have an opportunity to try it, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, so hopefully you now have the answers. I'm actually going to zoom in so you could check your work. You have to be very careful. I'm going to tell you there's one point you have to be very careful. I almost made a mistake here. Is right at this example down here. Okay? The first one was 4i, so this was not written in the correct form. So here's my real numbers. Here are my imaginary numbers. So make sure you combine those correctly. So here are the answers. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Have a great day, everybody.